Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott McKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
Well, hello there. Welcome to Industrial Talk, the number one industrial-related podcast in the universe that celebrates industry heroes all around the world. Because you are bold, you are brave, you dare greatly, you're solving problems, you're innovating like nobody's business, and you're changing lives, and you are changing the world, and that's why we celebrate you here on Industrial Talk. All right, Scott Drake is the gentleman in the hot seat. He is the founder and executive director of JumpCoach. And growing modern Agile Leaders is the topic of conversation. Let's get a cracking. Leadership. So all of this innovation stuff that's happening out there, the number one, and I mean numero uno, reason why things do not succeed, it's always getting down to leaders and people and culture. It's always a human equation that definitely impacts success and failure of whatever initiative you're working on. So that's Scott Drake right there. We'll have more to say about it. All right. Here's a couple of things I want to make sure that you keep in your mind, right? So I've been noodling on some things about marketing and sales. And I'm a big marketer, and I love sales, and it's a passion of mine. But I want to throw this out for you, and it's stats. Everybody says, hey, you got to sell with stats. Oh, I'll sell with stats here. Let's see what we got here. It was I was looking at it. Oh, here it is. Here it is. So note this. 45% of sales people never follow up with the prospect. 45%. That's just the stats. I'm just sort of regurgitating the stats. 25% of salespeople make the second contact and stop. Okay. 12%, just a measly 12% of salespeople make 3 contacts and stop, and only 10% go beyond the 3 contacts. But here's the real reason why you want to multi-contact, multi-touch, is that 2% of sales happen only 2 with the first contact. Okay, we're an industry, we're selling, we're doing a lot of things with innovation. These are big challenges, and I don't think you're going to be able to, meet one time and boom, the deal is cut. 3% of the sales made on the second contact, 5% of the sales made is on the third contact, 10% on the fourth contact, but here's the real clicker. 80% of the sales are made on the 5th and 12th contact. 5th through 12th contact. That's a lot. And so my question to you is, what type of mechanisms do you have in place that adds value every time you're making contact, and it's multi-contact? Because clearly your sales will truly benefit if you have a mechanism to be able to constantly and revolving around those contacts and adding value. Why? Why do they want to listen to you? You better add value. You better add value to what they are doing. The other thing is, it's a little quote. It's just a teeny little quote. The fortunes are in the follow-up. How about that? It's true. I don't think you can deny that. So if I was running sales, which I've done in the past, or marketing, which I've done in the past, or running companies, which I've done in the past, is I want a multi-touch, multi-connection process that adds value every time. Not to me, not to my company, but to them. Am I solving their problems, right? That contact that solves the problem. That to me is where it's at. And do you have that funnel in place? I just throw it out. I'm going to continue to harp on that just because I think it's so important for your success. It's important for mine. I know I do. I have multi-contact, All right. A couple of events that you need to put on your calendar. I'm broadcasting from these events, which is pretty cool. And I'm excited about broadcasting from these events. And the reason I'm excited is because it sort of feels like normal, right? Feels like normal. Things are, sort of, it just feels good, right? And I get to broadcast. I'm very fortunate to broadcast and connect with people and have a great time and have meaning and purpose in these connections. The first event is the IoT Solutions World Congress. This is in Barcelona. If you have to go to Europe, I guess Barcelona would be the place to go. This is the 10th through the 12th of May, right around the corner. I'm excited about it. And this is a unique event because they really work on providing real solutions to your challenges. And you get to sit there and talk to people that have the solutions, and it's a worthwhile event. This will be my third time there, and I've been very, 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 very fortunate to be able to do that. That's IoT Solutions World Congress, 10th through the 12th. The other one is Distributech. This is May 23rd to the 25th. This is in Dallas, Texas, and it is really sort of the premier event. We're broadcasting there too. Premier event that features a lot of the utility generation solutions that are needed to bring this whole utility industry moving forward. Distributech. So I'll be broadcasting there. So, be on the lookout of that. And then another one, finally, this is sort of a smaller one, but very focused on Digital Manufacturing Summit. That's what it's called, Digital Manufacturing Summit, and that's May 19th. And that is in Chicago. And again, there's some great things that are taking place. We've got to consider to have that digital mindset, but there are a lot of components associated with you and that success. Just FYI, it's important. We haven't even touched upon cybersecurity. We haven't even touched upon a lot of the elements. And so we're going to have to start painting that picture of that holistic look at digital transformation, finding trusted members of your team to be able to make that happen, because the reality is you're going to have to do it. If you're in manufacturing, you got to do it. So find somebody that you truly trust, work with them, move forward. There are a lot of things being discussed out here. Now, finally, I've got two I call them micro webinars. And the reason I'm micro, I got to be truthful with you. I'm impatient. I always want to move fast, and I do struggle with something that lasts longer than an hour. It's just, ask my wife, ask my kids, they'll concur. But the reality is that we have to have consistent, more, I say micro webinars, focused on real challenges. So I'm working on one that is called utility maintenance. There's a lot of stuff that's happening out there in the world of utilities. And this is like the no BS approach of saving time and money. That's one. So be on the lookout for that. And the other one is manufacturing. We're still sort of figuring out what that title might be, but there's a ton of options. But this is the ability to be able to look at and really ask, if you're not traveling around, whatever, ask leaders that questions that you're struggling with. And then it'll be out there, and it'll be evergreen, and you can follow up. And so, here at Industrial Talk, we just want you to be a success. How's that? We do. We're going to provide everything that we could possibly do, and then some. If you want to connect with them, that's what we're all about. Those are micro webinars, one in utility maintenance and the other one in manufacturing, and we got a lot more scheduled. All right. On to the interview. Scott Drake. Now, I've been a little remiss because Scott and I had a conversation some months back, and I'm finally getting around. But he knows what he's talking about. And for a guy like me who tends to be a little, impatient, this is right down my, I ate it up. It's like growing modern and agile leaders in weeks. Weeks. I'm all in. I need leadership. Yes, not years. Helping scaling organizations grow leadership teams. How can you argue with that? That's Scott Drake. JumpCoach is the organization. Enjoy the conversation. Scott, welcome to Industrial Talk. Thank you very much for finding time in your busy schedule to talk to the I have to say, the best listeners around the world. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Scott. How are you doing today?
And thank you for asking. I'm doing well. I'm telling you, listeners, we're going to have a great conversation. And it's about leadership, but it's about a topic that is near and dear to my heart. And for many manufacturers, many in industry, is what do we do? How do we build a workforce that is engaged, that wants to be there? And it's a topic that's got to happen. It's just got to happen. All right, Scott, before we get into the conversation, give us a little background on who you are and why you're such an incredible professional.
Well, thanks, Scott. Yeah, so my name is Scott Drake. I'm an executive director of a company called JumpCoach, and my background is in tech. I kind of came up through the ranks in tech. I spent some time early in my career at Microsoft, and then some time down in Silicon Valley, getting into leadership, and then making all the mistakes in leadership, and learning a lot of lessons in leadership. And as I moved up the ranks, I started seeing the leaders behind me making all the same mistakes that I had made, and I thought there's got to be a better way to grow leaders who really know how to build engaged teams and who really know how to work together as a team. So I set out on a research project and built some tools, and earlier this year have embarked on this. And I'm going to make this the next 10, 15 years of my journey, is to really say, how do we get the leaders in place that can really build the companies that we need in the future?
We have COVID, we have the pandemic, and one of the observations that I had with this pandemic, outside of the fact that pre-pandemic, I thought we were bringing our C and B game to the table, but now you have to bring the A game. But it also highlighted leadership weakness. Either you were a good leader and being able to navigate the waters of this pandemic, or you were struggling as a leader to try to figure out how to navigate these waters of this pandemic. But neither here nor there. We're here. So let's talk about workforce. One of the areas that many within manufacturing, many within industry, is they're having a hard time, and they're having a big time hard time finding people, finding a workforce that is engaged, that is necessary to keep their doors open, to keep their legacy of whatever their business is, and to keep them in the door, keep creating sort of a stickiness. Let's talk a little bit about that. Those are the challenges. Let's talk a little bit about four-factor hiring, which is interesting to me. Give us a little background on what that means.
Yeah, so four-factor hiring is basically, when you get hiring right, it's magic, right? The people are engaged, they want to be there, they do a great job, they show up prepared to work. But when you get it wrong, like, it can really be damaging, and you can deal with a lot of problems that all industry is dealing with turnover, or people who don't do good work, or don't care, or they give poor customer service, and some of those things. So what we found, and again, I come out of the tech world, and we've kind of been dealing with a lot of the problems that other sectors are starting to deal with. Now, we've been dealing with this stuff for 20, 25 years. And what we found in tech, or what I found, is that when I would hire for, hey, I need somebody who has this particular skill, and somebody who'll take the pay that I can offer them and is happy with the perks that I can put in front of them, then that person might show up, but they're really often not going to be a good employee, and they may quit in 6 months, and they may drive me crazy as a manager, because I'm having to try to coach into them all the behaviors that I want them to do, and coach out of the behaviors I want them to not do, right? So four-factor basically says, look, you've got, what are the skills? What are the extrinsic motivators, the pay and the perks that you put in front of somebody? But then the third part is that fit piece, which is to say, what behaviors, what code of conduct does this person need to naturally exhibit? And then the fourth piece is really, why will this person be motivated, right? What is it about my organization that we can provide this person that's going to bring intrinsic motivation, and have that person show up every day excited to be there? And we have to hire for that, right? We can't just assume that every organization is the same. Different organizations are going to find different things within these intrinsic motivators to bring the right people in place. So it's really about hiring for all four of those, and then managing for all four of those is what we help companies do.
But I got to tell you, I'm desperate. I'm a manufacturer. I'm desperate. I need people. I need bodies. And it doesn't sound sexy, but I need bodies. I need people to fill roles. And it's almost like, is it better to identify the skills, take your time, identify the skills, but to really identify number three, that fit, that individual that fits the culture? Is it better for that? I don't know. I don't have an answer. All I know is I need people, and I'm somewhat desperate. is it better to look at that and then teach to it? What's your thinking on that?
So it depends. I mean, there's no one right answer. I think different people can find different success in different places. But we really sit down and we got to start asking, why do people want to be here? Right? Pay is not enough, right? I can pay them $15 an hour or $20 an hour or $40 an hour. Pay is not going to get people to show up with their hearts and minds, right? There's got to be something else. And those something else's tend to be your code of conduct and some of those things, or they tend to be your purpose. Why do you exist? What are the types of products maybe that you're creating, or the services that you're offering, that those have a meaning to somebody, right? What you're doing, your work has meaning to somebody else. And in that work, you can put some purpose, or it may be growth. Like, I'm going to show up and I'm going to give my best for the next 2 or 3 years because I'm going to grow and I'm going to be a better person when I come out the other side of it. So there's got to be something else there. And it's really in being honest with yourself as a business leader and saying, what are we offering these people beyond the pay and the perks? That is really where you're going to find the solutions to some of these problems.
You know, it's interesting because I don't think we cover purpose enough. I don't think that industry as a whole they might say, hey, this is our mission statement. This is our values, whatever. This is our vision. But really, when we start talking about purpose, what does that mean from your perspective? Tell us, Scott.
From my perspective, it is, why do I want to show up every day and give my heart and soul to this? And it's not going to be for X dollars an hour, right? And it may be for my team. It may be that I show up every day and do my best and give my best because I'm part of this team. It may be because of the problems that we solve and the people that we get to help. There's different things that you can build a purpose around. And it's not always some aspirational or some big, fuzzy thing. It's often some very concrete things. I know there's one story, I can't remember where I heard it, but like there was a roofing company that they decided to make their purpose giving ex-cons a second chance. Right. So all of a sudden, this organization had something beyond just being another roofing contractor that everybody's just price shopping on. And they built something else around this business to say, we have a purpose beyond just that. And that's what attracted a lot of people. And a lot of the problems that company, that industry sees as a whole, that company no longer saw because they built something else around what they were doing. That's the kind of thing that you can build purposes around.
Yeah. And I see that if I had a desire to build a business of resilience, I would want to make sure that everybody is rowing in the same direction on the boat. Mm-hmm. And that to me is a focus on purpose and why we're here and what is the ultimate goal and challenge. And we're all just motivated to do that. And is it better for me? And I looked at the 4 factors. You've got skills. You're looking at skills. You're looking at motivators, fit, culture, and intrinsic motivators. How's that different? Number 2 and number 4 differ from each other.
So intrinsic motivators are the things that are pay and perks are things external to me, right? They're not things necessarily that I control. They're not really things that I feel, right? They're things that I get. And getting things is only going to motivate me so far. And it hits a point where you get these intrinsic motivators, which is, I'm going to do this because it's interesting for me, right? There's something in it that I get some reward that is either intellectual or emotional from doing this work or from participating in this group of people in this organization. I get something from it beyond that brings me motivation. One of the things I love to say in the tech world is most programmers will work for free. And most do work for free. They go to their job and they're miserable. And then they go home and they work on side projects, or they do nonprofit work, or they work for some other organization that's doing something interesting because they get to work on challenging problems that are interesting to them, right? Yeah. So it's really about finding those things that you can then bring into your work that bring you that satisfaction from the work itself, not necessarily from what you get from the work.
I like the way that is laid out. If I was a hiring manager, director, or whatever I'm hiring, I would naturally gravitate to fit and culture and intrinsic motivator. And then, of course, the skills I could always train to but those are matters of the heart from my perspective. And I would probably gravitate toward that. Let's say I'm an organization and our normal way of doing business is I go to HR. I need an individual to satisfy this particular role. I need these skills, and I need to pay them X, Y, or Z. It doesn't, like, here's my scale, my salary range, right? Mm-hmm. Rarely, and I mean today, rarely do I talk about fit to culture or the intrinsic motivators of these individuals, and I will not interview to that. How do you begin changing an organization? Because I think that to me is super important when I'm dealing with the workforce challenge out there. If I can work on those and get that down, I think I'm better positioned. How do I start that journey?
Sure. So we start them off by saying, instead of saying, what do I need something? What skills does this person need? We say, what do they get to do? What is this person going to get to do? What are they going to get to work on? Right. And then why does that mean anything to anybody? Right. What are they going to get to do for the next year? What are they going to get to do for the next 6 months? And then why should anybody care? Right. What is it about that work that there is actually something interesting about? And then it's taking that and saying, okay, that's where you're going to find something to sell to somebody else. Instead of saying, I need somebody to come in that has these 3 hard skills and they must have 10 years experience of doing this and they must be able to take $20 an hour. We actually, the way we do our job descriptions, we say, here's what you're going to get to do, right? Here's what's exciting about it. And what's going to happen is the people who would actually be excited to do that work, there's going to be some intrinsic motivator. They're going to look at that and say, oh, that would be fun. That would be interesting. I would learn something by doing that. So you talk about the things that people get to do, not about the demands that you're putting on them. That's what we tend to talk about. You must have, instead of saying you get to. So it's really about shifting the mindset of the leadership team and the HR team to start looking at the world in that lens. And it is hard because we have been trained our entire lives to think, efficiency and consistency and predictability and this mechanistic approach. We've been trained our whole lives to think that way. And you have to stop and step back and go, this isn't working anymore. We have to learn to think differently. So that's really where you start.
I like you get to ... Yep. In your job description. I think that's a great beginning. Is there also a way of being able to say, okay, you get to ... also ... whatever it might be. Is there an educational component that is also a part of that conversation? If you can't do, if you don't meet these, but we'll train you, that type of thing. Is that conversation out there?
It absolutely is. And we actually, again, a lot of times when I'm hiring, I start with the problem that we solve. Because it's like the last company I was an executive at, we were in medical education. So we would talk about, hey, you're going to work in educating doctors. And what I was trying to do is attract people who maybe came from a family of doctors, or who maybe had a wife who was a nurse, or a husband who was a nurse, or something along that line. I was looking for putting out in front of them those things. But then I would say, and here are the types of things that we think you're going to need and we're going to need, but that if you've got some of this other stuff, if you've got some reason to want to be here, I would rather train you and help you come up to speed. If you're going to show up every day excited to be here, then we'll train you. Yes, we would absolutely build some of that in. And those would be some of the conversations that we would have. I would rather attract the 10 people who want to be there than 100 people who don't, right? And then train those 10 people. So yeah, we would talk about some of those things, both in our job descriptions and as in our early interviews and some of those things, to make sure that people understood that it was the want to be here was often more important than the specific hard skills. And you think tech, you think the hard skills of tech, like you got to be able to program in this language, you got to be able to do this kind of things. We would be pretty flexible sometimes with those if they had some intrinsic motivator that made them want to be there. So yeah.
And what's interesting, some of the feedback that I've received as a result of this, hey, yeah, I bring them in, I train them to do whatever it is. And then, of course, they're a hotter commodity because other companies are looking for that skill too, and therefore leave. But the reality is, if I can create a culture that encourages people to stay, then there is a level of stickiness, and then I can train, and then I don't have to really worry. Yeah, they'll make their own decision. But I think that if you can create that culture that encourages them to stay, then your investment into what they're doing, their education, stays within the confines of your organization. Am I looking at that right?
No, you are. And you've got to. It's not an issue that they quit. Then you got to go, why did they quit? Right? Why was company B more attractive than us?
Yeah.
Right? What were they doing differently? And it's typically going to be more than $2 or $3 an hour more. Right. It may be that they didn't have a good relationship with their manager because their manager didn't understand necessarily how to be a good manager. Right. People tend to quit managers. People quit teammates who don't follow a code of conduct. People, quit inconsistency or lack of clarity. Right. So what are the things that cause that person to then want to take that training and go someplace else? And it's rarely about money. It's often about other things. And so it's really, again, you've got to be honest with yourself, and you've got to be willing to look in the mirror and look at your organization and say, what are we doing that we should be doing better that would help us keep these people here?
See, and you touch on something that's really important, and that is sort of the macro look at that culture. And that requires all your decision makers, your managers, the ones that are moving this company forward, to be in line. And you can't have it. And I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, if it doesn't take much for me to get pissed off at some manager doing something over here, even though I might have 20 managers over here that are great, that one manager is going to piss me off and I'm going to leave. And it's so important to have everybody in line. I mean, it just is, especially in today's work environment.
It is. It doesn't take much. I mean, we teach two things that I think are really helpful. One, we teach what we call moments that matter. And that's that leadership happens in these small moments of interaction between people. And if in those moments people get clarity and motivation and they're treated well and they feel they were treated fairly, then they're typically happy with the company. But if in those moments people get things they don't need, like confusion and doubt, or they're reprimanded in a way that they don't feel was fair, then often they're going to leave. But those small moments that matter, managers often don't even realize that they've done something that kind of tripped up that person. So we actually, normally in delegation or in coaching problem solving, or if the employee has an idea and they share it and it's not received with any curiosity, or like those little things that are so small can really derail and take what is a great, happy employee and force them to go look at company B. So it's about getting those right.
And that employee is going to leave that office or whatever it was and start chirping in the ears of other people within your organization. It is that quick. That for sure. You said there are two things. You got moments that matter, which I like. And number two.
And the second one is we actually teach a scorecard. So a lot of leadership is confusing because it is such a big topic, right? People don't understand all the nooks and crannies. They don't understand that I've got to do A, B, C, D, and E, right? There's 4 goals of leadership that are kind of conflicting. And then there's 9 jobs that leaders have to do. And most leaders don't understand all 4 goals, or they don't understand all 9 jobs. So we actually give them a map. It's essentially like, hey, I'm going to give you a map of New Orleans. Like, New Orleans is a big city, right? Most people get to the airport, they don't understand everything you do. They look at a map. Same thing with leadership. There is no map of leadership, or there wasn't. So we created one. But what that map does is it gets all those leaders aware of all these little nooks and crannies and saying, look, all of us have to be in lockstep around our culture and our values. All of us have to be in lockstep in challenging our team appropriately and building motivation and not doing things that damage motivation. We have to be in lockstep in how we hire. And if you can get that, then you do get that consistency and you see fewer problems. But yeah, if you do have one rogue manager who's trying to be helpful, but steps on somebody's toes in a way that really, crease them, then you can cause problems. So it is really about getting all those managers working well together from the same playbook in a complementary way.
That's huge. I'm just telling you right now, it's huge. It's huge. One last question before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
Can everybody be a leader?
So I think about 10% of people lack empathy or emotional intelligence. They have some psychological or emotional challenge that prevents them from developing the empathy or emotional intelligence. There's another 10% that are natural leaders. They just naturally kind of think about leadership in the right way. And the other 80% of us, we can learn, right? But we have to learn. But yes, that there's 90% of people who absolutely can be effective as leaders if they want to be. Right. That's the other piece of it, is they really have to want to be for the right reasons. It's not about status and getting more money and moving up the ranks and those kinds of things. It's really got to truly be about, we want to create a great place. We want to solve problems. We want to work together. They have to have the right attitude about it. But yeah, if they want to do it and they want to shift their thinking and have that right attitude about it, then yeah, everybody, in my opinion, except for about 10%, can grow and can become really effective leaders.
That is an interesting, I like that cap off, just because what it tells me within an organization, if you're running an organization, you're the head cheese, whatever that is, your leaders have got to be, one, trained and on a common on the common roadmap, common whatever it might be, to be able to ensure that everything, that culture is nurtured and moved forward so that you don't piss people off. You can't afford to piss people off, especially your workforce and future leaders within your organization too. It's all a part of that too. All right, how did people get a hold of you, Scott?
Yeah, best thing to do is just go to jumpcoach.com. Again, with that assessment, that scorecard, we actually build a free tool around it. So people can go, and it's under our free tools section, and they can just click on that. And actually, it takes about 10 minutes to go through the assessment. But what it's going to show you is going to show you your gaps. It's going to say, here's where you're doing well and you're aware, and here are your gaps. So definitely, yes, stop by jumpcoach.com and take that assessment if you're curious about it.
There it is. I'm out on your website right there, and I see leadership assessment, leadership Q&A. All right. All very, very cool. Scott, you were absolutely wonderful, and I think that what has been provided, great insights. All right, manufacturers. All right, industry professionals. I think that this is a great key to deal with your workforce challenges out there. Yes, it's a journey. Don't say, Scott, it can't happen overnight. It can, but you got to commit to it today. No, yesterday. Let's put a little urgency. Thank you, Scott, for being on Industrial Talk.
Hey, Scott, thanks so much for having me. I enjoyed it very much.
All right, listeners, we're going to wrap it up on the other side. I'm going to have that link to also the free tool, so don't worry about that, as well as how to get a hold of Scott and the website, everything that you need to know right there, ready to go. So stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
All right, again, thank you, Scott Drake. JumpCoach is the company. Leadership is definitely an in thing, especially now when we start to talk about digital transformation. We need leaders. We need it. Every doggone problem that happens with implementation always gets down to leadership, culture, people. Technology is just the technology. Just keep that in mind. It's important. You'll have all the contact information at industrialtalk.com. All right. Again, we've got IoT Solutions World Congress, we've got Distribute Tech, and we've got Digital Manufacturing Summits in May. Put them on your calendar. They're all out there too as well. Now, the other thing, finally, is that let's just be, let's just be frank. Sales is important. We need multi-touch. Make it happen. Let's figure out those processes that are necessary to make that happen. Simple? All right. All right, be bold, be brave. Dare greatly. Hang out with Scott. You'll be bold, brave, and daring greatly, and you're going to change the world. We're going to have another great conversation shortly.